River Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I am in support that this Senate gives consent to the request of Mr. President that Nigerian troops be deployed on limited military duties to Mali. I support it because it is in our own interest to do so. Mr. President, one of the lessons to be learnt from the complications that we have in Mali today is that there is no longer room for military intervention, because the situation in Mali started degenerating very, very quickly when some zealous young military officers tried to supplant a constitutionally elected.
Put on your mic.
They were Malian military officers, not Nigerians. When they tried to supplant a constitutionally and democratically elected government, this complication set in. The lesson, sir, is that military regimes are out of fashion. The world has come to know that they do not solve the problems of any nation, that a democratic government, no matter how inept, must be removed only through democratic means. So this should send a very clear message to ambitious military adventurers anywhere on the continent that their day is past.
Put your mic on, please, Senate Leader.
That their day is long gone. Having said so, sir, let me come to another lesson that I think we should learn. As an undergraduate, we were made to contribute monies for the liberation of South Africa, for Zimbabwe, for Angola. Nigeria played Mozambique, Namibia. Nigeria played a major role in the liberation of those countries. As a young lawyer, we were made to house students from Angola and other South African countries who were brought into Nigeria to receive education. What has Nigeria benefited in reciprocation? In Liberia, near our home, in Sierra Leone, near our home, Nigeria made a lot of sacrifices. In fact, I have friends and relations who lost their lives in Liberia and in Sierra Leone. If you go to Angola today, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, for the enormous sacrifices that we made in Angola, all Nigeria has to show is a boulevard named Murtala Mohammed Boulevard. Today, there is just one-way traffic in business. It is South African companies, MTN, Stanbic, DSTV, moving to Nigeria. We don't see Nigerian businesses moving in that direction. You go to Angola, the same story. You go to Liberia, Sierra Leone, the same story. Mr. President, the meaning of this is that there is a gap in our foreign policy. We must tie economic interests to our foreign policy. Because when you deploy troops outside the shores of Nigeria, it's in execution or in pursuit of your foreign policy. So when our military go outside the shores of Nigeria, it is to pursue our foreign policy. So just like the colonialists did, you know, when they came, they had the missionaries behind them, then they had the traders behind the missionaries. Our foreign policy must have those layers. We must tie our economic interest to our foreign policy. And our foreign policy, Mr. President, distinguished President and distinguished colleagues, should be more dynamic. And I want to use the example of our policy in Liberia to illustrate this. Mr. President, when we went to Liberia, it was to redeem a military situation. Liberia is enjoying almost 10 years of peace, but our foreign policy is still rooted in the military situation, the military crisis that we went to redeem. Our foreign policy today in Liberia is still rooted in military assistance to a country that is now enjoying almost 10 years of peace. I think our foreign policy should be a little more dynamic and versatile. We have achieved peace in Liberia. We should move on to the next level, which is economic diplomacy, which is diplomacy to help them build their social and political institutions. But we are still rooted in the past. So the point I want to make is that Mali, this deployment to Mali presents Nigeria with an opportunity to redefine and fine-tune its foreign policy. There must be an economic component to our foreign policy. We cannot continue to be the Father Christmas of Africa. We cannot continue to remain big brother only when it comes to sacrifice. There must be some benefits attached to the sacrifice that we make. Lastly, to justify Mr. President's request, I recall that when we were discussing the security situation in the country, when the two foreigners were killed in a rescue attempt not long ago, we agreed in this Senate that to secure the security of this country, if we must engage in hot pursuits, so be it. If we must chase terrorists beyond the shores of Nigeria, so be it. Whatever we need to do to secure our country, we must do it. And I believe that the request of Mr. President is consistent with the position that this Senate had taken, that if we need to chase terrorists beyond the shores of Nigeria, we must do it. So what we are doing by giving consent is merely being consistent with a position we have taken in this Senate before. I thank you for the opportunity, Mr.